Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'll be discussing of the do's and the don'ts while blending watercolors, or let's say how to create gradient washes. It's one and the same thing. So watch till the end and subscribe, and now let's get started. Let's start by talking of the materials that I'll be using for this, because the materials you use also impacts the gradient a lot. So first and the foremost being the watercolors. I'll be using the OG Camlin watercolor but tube ones. You can check out this video why tubes and not pan I'll be using. In short, I'll be covering a large surface area. Secondly, you would need brushes. Using a large flat brush is recommended for covering a large surface. So yeah, that's that. Next thing is the most important above all, that is the right kind of sheet. There are special watercolor sheets, so use that. I'll be showing the difference between watercolor sheet and the non-watercolor sheet. I'll be showing a tutorial further in the video, so stay tuned. So let's move on with the techniques or the methods. So first one being the wet on wet technique. As the name suggests, here we will be using paint over a wet surface. So I wasn't sure if I should be using crimson color along with blue and which blue, so I decided on using a swatch card, where I came upon a decision that I'll be using cobalt blue along with crimson color. So okay, now let's start with actually doing it on the main surface. Now first of all, wet on wet, as I said, you'll be using paint over a wet surface. Now how to create a wet surface, it's really crucial. So what you have to do is apply water over the surface. Now applying water over the surface is really, I cannot explain you, but it's really difficult, because you might not even have idea about how much of water to be used, right? And explaining it virtually is even more difficult, but giving you an idea that the water has to be enough so that there's a slight gloss on your paper. Now this gloss shouldn't be overloading. How do I even explain you, because you have to practice this 1 or 2 times to get an idea what I'm trying to explain you, because otherwise puddles would be formed and the surface wouldn't look good at all even after drying. So yeah, that's that. And so the first step goes on with applying the paint. After that, from the top, like going from left to right horizontally, and then moving from the bottom with the other color you have chosen, and then blending both of them in. Like there's just a random blending, but the most crucial part over here is the water that you're using underneath, because otherwise the blending process is easy if you have used the right amount of water. So that is really important here. Now I'll be showing you the same process of wet on wet technique on a sheet which is non-watercolor sheet. Like non-watercolor, by that I mean printing papers. That was watercolor sheet. Now here, if you see, I'm doing the same thing over here, but if you clearly see, there are puddles formed. The process is not smooth enough, and there's a difference. The main difference is of weight, of course, and that the watercolor sheet has a lot more capacity to hold water. The printing papers and the non-watercolor sheet, the low weighted sheets do not have, the light weighted sheets do not have the tendency to hold water. They might just end up tearing up, which you absolutely don't want. So make sure to use the right kind of sheet, which is very important. Even if you use the student quality watercolors, it's fine, it's completely fine, but what matters here is the sheet, and then what matters is your kind of colors you're using, and then matters your brushes you're using. Of course, you shouldn't be using those very thick bristles brushes, but like a decent quality ones. Next one is the wet on dry technique. As the name suggests, we are going to use the paint directly on the surface without pre-wetting it like we did in the previous one. So start by applying paint from top, the color you have chosen, and as you reach mid of your page, start by blending it in with the other color. And it is very crucial, because The advantage is that you have more control over the water and the paint because you haven't pre-wetted the surface. But since it is dry, wet on dry, the surface, the paints might get dry very quickly, and you don't want that to happen because otherwise blending wouldn't take place after the watercolor dries. So before the other color dries, you have to make sure you use the second color to blend it in, and then you can go ahead and paint the rest of the part with the colors you have already chosen. So that's that. Now I'm going to repeat the same process on a non-watercolor sheet, that is the printing paper. Just start by applying, like just do the same process. You would be able to see how different it is from using it in a watercolor sheet. Like you would be able to see a difference, like you would be able to feel it. And even if you don't feel it, like if you don't do it, if you just watch this video, you would get an idea that it's completely different. So try avoiding. If you're doing it for fun, it's fine because art is all about fun. But if you want to create some serious pieces, like you're just trying to work with it, then you should be going ahead with the watercolor sheet, I would suggest. Now I don't really know what is the technique's name, but what we do in this technique is that you simply start by doing covering the surface with the wet on dry technique, and once that's done, do not let it dry completely, but when it's semi wet, use your gouache. If you don't have gouache paints, you can go ahead with using your white watercolor sheet to just you can use any color just to show I'm using the white color. And you can just put some drops, like not exactly drops, but then you just tap and pick up your brush from that surface, and you would be able to see how beautifully the color gets blended. It's really nice to create stars and galaxy views because it's really great for that purpose. What basically happens is that in this technique, the surface is semi wet. Also the paint you're using is also semi wet because it's not in the diluted form. So let's call it semi dry on semi dry technique. So yeah, that is about this one. Now this one is a wet on wet technique where we will be using 3 colors. I have chosen crimson, cobalt blue and lemon yellow. Now what you basically have to do is blend 3 colors in. So start off with blending applying red color, the crimson red, and then you can go ahead and mix or merge yellow with it, blend it in just like we did it with blue color in the previous ones. And then moving on to the third layer, that is your blue color, you can blend the yellow and blue in quickly and then cover rest of the surface because it will be easy, because at times what happens is since you're covering 3 colors, you might take out different paints at different point of time. The wet surface may also get dried up, so use it quickly. And yes guys, that's about it for this video. I hope it helped you all, and if it did, then don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to this channel, and I'll meet you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.